Greetings and welcome to this video. In the previous video, we talked about finding the sum of the first n natural numbers using a while. Now today, we are going to take this problem to a slightly higher level, where we are supposed to find the sum of the first n odd natural numbers. When we are talking about the first n odd natural numbers, so then the problem becomes slightly more complicated. Let's try to understand how. So when we were solving or when we were adding the first n natural numbers, then we were just saying 1 plus 2 plus 3 and so on up to a value n, right? And these numbers 1, 2, 3 and so on were stored in a variable a, and in every iteration we were updating the value of this a by 1, right? So basically a represented the nth term of this, right? A represented the nth term of the sum, and every nth term we were updating it by a value of 1, right? And we were storing this particular value in another variable called sum. So we were just incrementing the sum by a. So for example, when we were in the first term, we had f equals to 1. And when we were in the second term, we updated the sum by adding the second term to it. Then when we were in the third iteration, then we updated the sum by adding the third term to it, and so on. So that was this particular statement where we were adding the terms to the original sum or the already existing. And once we reached a particular n, we stopped that loop, and that gave us the stopping criteria, right? Now over here, problem becomes slightly complex because earlier the stopping criteria was fixed. We knew that okay, if we have to find the sum of the first n odd natural numbers, the first n natural numbers, so the last term of the summation is going to be n, right? So that is how we got this topic. But now it's slightly complicated because the last term is not going to be n, it is going to be something else. So we need to find out what that last term could be, all right? What that last could be. So let's try to figure out what the last term could be. Okay. So now what we have to do is we have to find 1 plus 3 plus 5 and so on, right? So if my n is equal to 1, the last term is 1. When my n is equal to 2, the last term is 3. When my n is equal to 3, the last term is 5. So if you see, the last term is always 2n minus 1, right? Now this is something that you'll have to figure out based on what pattern it is following, what pattern is your series. You'll have to figure it out that what could the last term of your summation. All right. And when you get that, then your problem is solved. So for us, the last term is 2n minus 1. So now that we know, A over here represents the terms of the series or the summation. So this is 2n minus 1. And once that condition is satisfied, the loop is going to stop, right? But we also have to increment or, change our uh, summations. We have to change a few things about these terms as well. So we have to add the first n odd natural numbers. So in the previous video, if you remember, we took the f equals to 1 because we knew that the first term is going to be 1. And then we put a equals to 2 because we knew that the next term that we are going to add is 2, right? But so over here, our first term is 1. So therefore, we'll take f equals to 1. But we also know that the next term that we are going to add is 3. We start with A equals to. All right. Over here, when we incremented A, we incremented it by 1 because we had 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So every time the value of A was incremented by 1. But over here, we'll have to increment it by 2 because every term, the value is getting incremented by 2. We have 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 and so on, right? So now our program is complete. So in general, when we are trying to find sum of n terms in a particular series, so you need to know a few things while you're coding it out. The first thing is that what would be the general term, and based on that, you could understand that what could be the last term. For instance, over here, we could understand last term of the series is 2n minus 1. Second thing, you must know that each term, how does it change? If you're finding the sum of first n natural numbers, then it is going to get incremented by 1. If you're finding sum of first n odd or even numbers, then it is going to get incremented by 2. If you're finding the sum of multiples of 5, let's say, then every term gets incremented by 5, and so on. Moreover, you need to know what would be the second term that you're adding. At least by this method, you need to know that. What would be the next term that you're adding? For example, we had the first term is 1 and the second term was 3. So we should know that. We need to know that. All right. So these are a few things that would help you code out the sum of a particular series easily. Right. Now let's run this code and we'll start with putting n equals to 1, and that gives us a sum 1 because the first one odd natural numbers is just 1. And if we, let's say, put n equals to some 3, this would be 1 plus 3 plus 5, which is 9. So we've got 9 as a result. And this helps us find the sum of a lot of odd natural numbers. So let's say first 100 natural numbers. So, right. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll try to find the sum of a few more cool series. Let's see. Thank you.